Hi guys, welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Another day for a great interview, a fantastic interview actually. Shakoya Green, a woman who is the epitome of resilience, a woman who in her life has gone from foster care to now being a social worker and is passionate about her transformation and how she teaches others now to develop the same insights and resilience. And she's that glimmer of hope for many out there who are in difficult and sometimes unpredictable situations and feel at times powerless and hopeless. And it's so beautiful to have this merchant of hope coming onto my show. So Shakoya, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. It is truly a pleasure to be on your show and to be able to share my story and empower others to know that where they were in their past is not their end all. You still can press forward to a positive future.
Absolutely. And you've just nailed it. We could just stop here. Actually, that is the soundbite, guys. If you've learned anything from this discussion, there you are. There is hope, and that's what my channel is all about. So therefore, Shakoya, you fit 100% into what I keep saying. And I was definitely in dark places in my life. From anxiety, depression, PTSD, all these kind of negative emotions. Oh, I know them so well. And unfortunately, you got to know them well too at a quite early stage of your life. Are you happy to share a bit about that?
Absolutely. So born and raised in the city of Compton. Both my mother and father divorced, and they were both addicted to drugs. And at the age of 7, my grandmother filed a CPS referral with the Department of Children and Family Services. And she did this not because she couldn't take care of us, but because she needed financial support and resources. And she didn't want my mom to continue to pick us up today and then drop us off for 3 or 4 days at a time, taking us wherever she went during her stints. And so she wanted to make sure that we had a safe home environment where we could continue to thrive. And so at the age of 7, I was removed from my mother's care and placed into foster care.
How old was your grandma then?
Ooh, she had to be in her 50s at that time. She had already raised 7 children of her own. And my 2 aunts were living with her at the time. We're still living with my grandmother, the 2 youngest girls. And one of my aunts had children, and so they were living with her at that too.
Oh dear. Can you imagine the additional stress there for her, this poor woman? For her, she was probably saying, my goodness, I'm just coming out of it, and there you are. And of course she loved you, and of course she wanted to make sure that you're in the best possible care that you possibly can be. So true. Can you remember much of that time, or did you end up blocking much out of that time?
No, I have lots of memories from that time. I can honestly say that we were very fortunate with the social worker that was assigned to the case up front because he really walked my grandmother through the process, and he was really empathetic with me and my siblings, because there was myself and then my older sister and then my younger brother. So he was really empathetic to the point where I didn't want social workers coming to my school. So he went to the school, talked to the administrators, got the paperwork that he needed, but he would make a special trip back out to my grandmother's house to see us because who wanted a social worker at the school? And so that was really good. My aunts were very supportive in helping my grandmother raise us. um, until I was 18 and went on to college. And I was the first in my family, in my immediate family, to go to a university to get a bachelor's degree and 2 master's degrees. But it was definitely with the support of my grandmother, my aunts, very supportive social workers. DCFS paid for books and summer school classes until I was 21 years old. And my grandmother had a strong faith.
Beautiful, beautiful. Same story here. Blue collar through and through, wrong side of the tracks. First guy to ever get to university or any kind of higher education. So I know where you come from. Wow. But it's beautiful how you speak about this social worker who went out of his way to change your life. And it's so lovely that there's actually this positive kind of vibe to that. Often you hear not so nice things about foster care and about
Right.
more systems that are under distress, systems where there is no money, which are stretched beyond functioning. And it's lovely to hear that that is not necessarily true in your case.
You know, and that was one of the reasons, outside of telling my own story, social workers have such a negative connotation behind them because of the things that you hear about them removing kids from families and breaking up homes and things like that. And good social workers are out there. There are great social workers out there that are not necessarily trying to break homes up, but trying to figure out how to keep those homes together, how to keep families together, trying to support parents to do the right thing so that they can care for their children. And so that was how having 2 amazing social workers. I can remember my first social worker and then my last social worker, who was truly amazing with helping me through the college process. That's how I went into social work. Initially, it was wanting to go into family law, but not really knowing how much that cost and what the requirements were. And so I went into, my plan was social work and then family law. And so I'm still a social worker.
And see, for me, social workers are actually very, very positive people working within the hospital environment and working here in a town in Rotorua where there is a lot of poverty, there is a lot of need for social services. It is beautiful to have social workers on your side. I see social workers essentially as jungle guides. There's a big jungle out there, and there are some safe ways to get through it, and there are probably some rather dangerous ways to get nowhere. And a social worker is a guide where I say, wow, we've got this patient, these are the circumstances. What do you think we can do to help this patient safely transition back from medical care into the community after their accident, after their disease, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, whilst I hear in films and on social media, I hear the negative connotations that sometimes afflict or affect social workers in my daily life. They are the heroes. They are the guys that without them, I would not know how to help my patients. I have no idea. So actually, a social worker is, I think, an integral part to tease together the social aspects of medical care. A good family physician will often be able to do quite a bit. We call them GP, general practitioner. A good GP will be able to do much of it. They know where they can send someone, but a social worker, well, that's their field. They know which services are out there. They know how to tap into services, even if they are seemingly maybe not appropriate or not willing to engage with you, but they have got the insights. So guys out there, if you listen to that, this is social workers. They're often so bloody good guys. and they don't want to do anything negative, but maybe the actions that have impacted on your family are so severe that your children need a break. In this particular case, they need to get out for a moment, until you get your shit together, until you got yourself clean, maybe until you have stopped using drugs, got yourself straight, and then a year, 2 years down the line, that's another story, isn't it?
And you know what, Stephen, that is so true. Um, you talked about a medical social worker, and I think where the misnomer is because people don't even realize that social workers do so many things. When people, in my experience, when people hear the word social worker, they go immediately to CPS or to DCFS. They don't think of the medical social workers. They don't think of bereavement social workers. They don't think of those who are giving therapy, those who are lobbying and advocating for social policy. I think they miss all of that because what's in the media is DCFS. And so even with the DCFS social workers, again, in my experience, I had nothing but positive DCFS social workers. Even for a short period of time, I was a CPS worker, and I worked with some amazing individuals who were really fighting for the families and trying to keep families together. And I think that's part of where, the miseducation around the field is.
And that's so good that you speak out about that, and that you show the true color of social workers, the true passion that is behind there. Because it's not a comfortable, happy, easygoing field to go into. You're constantly in crisis in your environment, because that's why social workers where they get involved. It doesn't matter if that is a medical crisis or a social crisis from the sense of addiction or death. You mentioned the grieving. Beautiful, beautiful. There are so many roles for a social worker, and it is so important that we highlight that, and highlight you guys as the bringers of hope. Highlight you guys as an integral part of navigating this jungle of apparent lack of welfare when it comes to the United States. But yet at the same token, I say lack of welfare because it is so much more highlighted, let's say in the UK, where you've got the NHS, where you've got these kind of socialist systems where, from the cradle to the grave, there's someone looking after you. That's the UK kind of model, how it was touted after the Second World War. That is not necessarily the truth in the United States. It's far more fragmented. So if you're a veteran, there's one set of support. And if you're not a veteran and have a similar problem, well, tough. You can't, it's these kind of things. So it's far more fragmented. And that's where the social worker comes in. Because you might know, hey, this is actually, no, this one doesn't work for you. But hey, did you know there is that? And chances are you didn't know. So indeed. So you're my hero, Shakoya. No two ways around it. And I mean that. Because in the holistic care of a human being, in the way of helping human beings through tough times, you are an integral part of it, like it or lump it.
Thank you. And it's part of, for me, it's being able to help others the way I was helped. I truly believe that I was blessed with people to support me throughout my life. And so now part of my service to others is to be a blessing to others. And I have co-founded a nonprofit probably about 5 years ago, and it's called B2B Support Services, and that's blessed to be a blessing because there are so many resources needed. We have provided services to individuals experiencing homelessness, to transition age foster youth, to youth who are parenting, to parenting teens. But there's so many resources and supports needed, and I firmly believe that my grandmother took me in, blessed me. And so now it's part of God's grace on me to be a blessing to someone else.
And that's the most beautiful thing. Step 12 in the 12-step program is to give back. So again, a very strong parallel there between recovery from drugs and alcohol and your story of transformation, from an uncertain past to now, the first girl in your family to go out there, become a go-getter, and change this world just that little bit. But it wouldn't have been easy for you along these lines. And when we initially got in touch, I asked you to answer a few questions, to give me some information. And you touched upon a lot of the things that were issues in the interim between victim and now this strong woman who helps others, the codependency, the whole emotional roller coaster of going through that transformation. I mean, how did you cope? How did you deal with it?
I would have to say in my younger years, my coping was journaling. I was a heavy writer. Even if going back to it, I would read it and say, oh, that didn't make sense, but I would just write my thoughts out, whatever came to mind. Also, I had, honestly, I had good outlets of people that I could talk to. My grandmother kept me involved in church. I was in the church drill team. I was in the church teen groups. So I had a very, strong support system that helped walk me through the process.
May I ask, what is a drill team?
So a drill team is like cheerleaders, but they're more. It's called a drill team. So it was a church drill team, and we were in parades, and we had different routines that we would perform, but we would perform them based off of Bible scriptures or with spiritual music in the background.
Right.
So yeah, I was in the drill team at church, in our church drill team.
Rest assured, we don't have drill teams neither in Germany nor in New Zealand. So that's cool. I like that. There are youth bands, and my son is playing in one of them. That's cool. But no, the drill team, the church cheerleaders, that's a new one for me. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I have to say that was a huge piece of me being able to press, right? Having support.
And it's an amazing thing. I would like to touch upon the fact that you actually were never tempted by alcohol and by drugs due to the insights that you gained from living with two parents who were both addicted. And I want to highlight that because there is always that kind of notion that, damn, part of being an addict is having that imprinted in your genes, having that come down from mommy and daddy. And no two ways. You are genetically more predisposed to be an alcoholic or an addict yourself. But guys, listen out to that, because Shakoya saw all the negative things. So she is very unlikely to become a chemical addict. And that's the beautiful thing. So whilst she's more set up to be one genetically, it's very unlikely that she will be. And it's the same with my sons, Shakoya. They have seen what alcohol does to a man, and both of them are not drinking. They are not tempted by drugs. And it's the same thing there. And needless to say, they will have my genes. They will have the higher dopamine response that we addicts get to chemical drugs. The kind of, wow, this is good. At least the first time or second time. And then later on, well, there's nothing good anymore. So no, very, very good. So only because you come from a background genetically where there is addiction and a lot of misuse and abuse of drugs, that doesn't mean to say that the future will hold the same. So the past does not equal the future. And that's your message, isn't it?
It really is. And as I've shared with you earlier, it was for me, I wanted to have a better life. I did not want to go down that path. So I never had a desire. And even when I've had, people around me that were doing it, like smoking marijuana in college and things like that. I never looked for that next high. I do drink occasionally, but even with the drinking or having a drink, there's something inside of me where I have to keep a level of control. So I'm going to have one, maybe two, and then I'm drinking water for the rest of the night. Um, we were at a gathering last night and they were like, "You're not drinking?" I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm driving." It's for me, I always have to not only think about myself, but I have a 14-year-old, I have a fiance, I have people in the world. If I'm out drinking and driving, then that just doesn't work. And so there's always another part of me thinking, okay, I know I'm leaving here soon. So no cocktails for me tonight. Um, my friends tell me loosen up a little bit. And I just, there's a sense of control that I need to maintain, as well as a sense of responsibility.
It's interesting that you touch upon the control, because a lot of people who in the younger years go through situations where they are not in control, they, without knowing, cherish and seek that control, sometimes to their own detriment. It can get completely over the top with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, in the extreme version. But many people end up with that need to be hyper vigilant, constantly in control, constantly around. And I think that's one of the things that I certainly experienced as part of the PTSD. Are you a control freak? Are you control? How is it? Another guest recently said it so beautifully. Control freak anonymous. She is an honorary member there. Are you someone who is clearly the leader within your household?
Um, Now that I am engaged, I am not. But after I went through my divorce and I became a single mom, yes, I was definitely in control. Not necessarily a control freak, because my daughter is definitely myself, her and her dad. And when I say that, she has a mind of her own, which I'm glad. And she speaks up and has always spoke up. So if it's not like, for her safety, yes, I control that, but I cannot control what she wears. I cannot control how she wears her hair. She definitely is her own person. And so even with her schooling, she said, "Mom, I'm not you. I'm not going to get straight A's all the time. I'm going to do my best." And so that for me is good, because I'm glad that she's a leader of her own, of herself, versus letting me control all of that, control that part of her. I don't want to be at a place where I am controlling, all of her. So I do have to have a sense of control for myself. But when it comes to her and then our household, because I am engaged, I don't have control here. We work together. We work together. And he is the head of the household, so he is the leader.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's cool. It's cool that you've got that insight and that you can actually distinguish that, because that no doubt will also affect how you look at relationships with your clients, because you see, my God, it's so probably sometimes so blatantly obvious for you what people have to do in order to get their act together. But you can't just put a kettle broth there. Come on, do it now. I forced you to. That's not how it works. So how does it work? How do you work with people where you think the plan is actually quite clear and you see what needs to be done, but they can't see it? Does that happen? Does that? I assume it
Oh,
does.
absolutely. It definitely happens. And I would say in my early years of social work, that was me. You have to follow this plan. This is what you have to do. This is what you said you wanted. And so this is what you're going to do. After being in the field of social work for 20 years, the real essence of the work is really helping individuals understand and come to their reality and their realization of the plan that they want. And so even in my coaching business, it's very rare that I'm telling somebody what to do. I'm asking them questions because deep down inside, they really have the answers. It just has not been brought to fruition and they haven't spoke it or wrote it down. And so I'm asking lots, and people say, you ask a lot of questions. I say, yeah, because guess what? You have the answers. And so what I'm going to do is help you put that plan together and strategically work it once you come up with the answers.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So your coaching, when did you start that?
So I started coaching in August. I had been wanting to write my blog, and I wrote it from foster care to social work. I wrote it for the last 4 years and said I was going to release it on my birthday, which is August 14th, for the last 4 years, and never did it until 2020. And I've said I wanted to do coaching. I've been doing consulting, and I've been doing training. And so I shared with a friend of mine, I have to get this blog out. This is the year. And she was like, well, why are you just getting a blog out? Why not start your business that you've been saying you wanted to start? And this was probably September 30th. And so from August 1st to August 14th, I pushed to get content for my website, pushed to get a plan together. I hired my own clarity to launch coach to help me walk through some things as it relates to the coaching business and really understanding the business side of it. And so I launched August 14th. I am still doing some beta programming right now as I want to make sure I have things, solid. My plan is to launch my groups in January. But right now I'm doing beta programming.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that's so gorgeous because here are you with all this information. And if people get referred to you or somehow bump into you as part of social work, they are really, really lucky. But that's a kind of a referral system. That's a kind of work system. But there are people out there who do need guidance, who do want the help, but they can't get it through the systems in which they are, or they can get help, but they don't gel at all with the social worker or with that person that was allocated to them. Sometimes people just don't get on, and that's normal. You can't love everyone, and not everyone will love you, full stop. But there will be people out there who will listen to that and think, damn, this Shakoya, she actually got her shit together, and she sounds good. I actually want to know more about her. So tell us the websites. Tell us the way that people can actually right now get hold of you.
So my website is www.sdgcoaching.com. And SDG stands for Sincerely Destined for Greatness. I am also on Instagram at SDG_coaching, and then on Facebook at SDG coaching. And I've written 2 blogs. One is from foster care to social worker, and the other one is from I am drawing a blank.
Yes, you've got much gorgeous things going in your head there. That is
devastation. It's from devastation to existence. And it talks about my story of being told at the age of 23 that I could not have children and always wanting children, and then being blessed with a child at 28.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So what we'll do, guys, have a look down there in the description of the video and of the podcast. There are all the links in there, so you can just go straight to Shakoya's work and to her social media handles, and can follow her and learn from her. Because here's a woman who has gone through tough times, like many of us do, and who has made it now her mission to share the insights and share the knowledge. And if you want to, be there at your side and be the guide through the jungle in the nicest way. And maybe we should actually see social workers as life coaches to be. That might not be a bad approach to social workers, because it's such a beautiful profession that does so much to help people and is so undervalued. So it's lovely to have you actually on this show and highlight all the good things that come from social work. And it's like any therapy, it's like any rehab, it's like any recovery process. You have to deal with the shit in your life, and that hurts. And unfortunately, therefore, also a social worker will not be always all happy and cheerful, because they have to make hard decisions or have to help with hard decisions to be made in a family's circumstances. But it is what it is. It is. There is hope out there, guys, and please do not forget that there is hope. You might not be able to see it right now, but the sheer fact that you're listening to this podcast or watching this video means that there is some shit going on in your life. And hey, if Shakoya rings a bell with you, then get in touch. What have you got to lose? You know, what could possibly stop you fulfilling your dreams? Will it be painful? Probably, because you have to deal with some things that you don't want to deal with. But to do that alone is bloody hard, because often enough you don't actually even know where the pain comes from. And you need someone to actually listen to you, what you're saying, and listen to you, what you're not saying, and hold the mirror in front of your face. And that's what a life coach does. Again, that's what they do really, really well. And especially people like Shakoya, because they have gone through a lot of crap themselves. So that makes them really good. Be careful. You can't bullshit a bullshitter. So therefore, when you get in touch with people like Shakoya or meet me or meet someone else that you have heard about this show, we typically can detect bullshit from a mile away. So don't start the journey if you don't want to actually really take the lid off and have a look inside what is fermenting, which pus is brewing under the surface. Shakoya, you are a fantastic woman, and you have got a fantastic journey, and I'm so grateful that you share some of that with me today on the show, but also with your blog, because people can go in their own time there and actually read and follow a bit up on our discussion here today. It is a beautiful thing that you are giving back, and I'm very humbled to have you had on my show. If there are three things, or if there are three key tips that you can give my listeners, what would they be?
To allow yourself some grace. And grace for me is give yourself time to grow. There's always room to grow. There's always something to learn. So give yourself time to grow. The G in grace stands for grow. The R is to be resilient. Look forward to the future. Be resilient in all that you do. Be resilient every day. Have resilience as part of your daily story. Don't dwell in the past. The A is ambition. Be ambitious. And then the C is for compassion. Have compassion for yourself, for the things that you've gone through, and then have compassion for those that you see on the daily basis, because we all need it. The E is for empower. Be empowered to move forward, and then be empowering to someone else. So my tidbit to everyone is to give yourself and allow yourself some grace. Growth resilience, ambition, and compassion, and be empowered.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. You just put my life goals into one word. Okay, I'm blown away here. That's cool. Grace. I will definitely take that to heart. And thank you so much for sharing all that beautiful wisdom with me. You certainly made me think today. And no doubt you will have planted seeds into the minds of some people out there. And who knows, maybe with our little interview, we change the world for someone out there, which would be a beautiful, beautiful thing. That's why we do these things. Shakoya, I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And you guys out there, look after yourself. Have a fantastic day.
Dream on, dream on, dream on, dream until you're